I'm Timmy.
I'm Justin.
I'm Nathan.
And this is Three Old Tech Dudes.
Part of this complete breakfast.
How you guys doing today?
Not bad.
Good?
How you doing, Nathan?
He's amused.
I'm trying not to laugh so hard at that last comment Timmy made. It's been 3 months.
Somebody
COVID
might watch
almost
us at
killed me.
breakfast. So bad.
Yeah,
Since you've seen us last, okay, this really isn't true due to the flow of our random YouTube releasing of videos that we shot more than several months before.
Oh my. Yeah.
I guess I should say I did almost die of the Rona. And then, like, within 2 weeks of my returning, I did a video where I made fun of the Rona. So
hey.
So I guess this is my payback for saying whatever variant will be next, which turned out to be whatever this O one is. Omicron. They keep making it more complex to fool the hillbillies.
I think it's the Omicron Persei I ate, but that's just me. That's because I watch way.
Remember that one shoot where we were like, "Hey, what's this virus stuff they're talking about? This isn't going to be anything real, is it?"
Yeah, we started a YouTube channel and then viruses are sent to attack us. That's probably our fault. Sorry.
Wow. Yeah,
well,
put that in there or not? I don't know.
What's the subject of interest today? What you got there?
It's not food.
It's not part of our complete breakfast?
No.
I guess not.
That's Missile Command. So last week we had the ham club meeting, and we talked about, we had normal ham club stuff, and then afterwards we did a demonstration on that thing, which is the amateur television transmitter that I own. So we did a video on that, which you can find probably here, there. It's probably floating above Timmy. And so I re-demonstrated the whole thing. Of course, instead of just between us, I was actually in front of the ham club and showing the whole thing off. And of course, it was working fine. And I used 2 cameras, one which was not working very well, and we're playing around with it now. You can kind of see it in the background. It looks terrible, so it needs some work. It's another project of mine.
Yeah.
And the other one was just fine. It was a Sony Handycam, pretty nice camcorder actually from the day.
I believe it's pretty utilized in the video that we put up here a minute ago.
Yeah,
as well.
Yeah, and we use it, and it's a nice little camera, 3-chip, beautiful for standard definition NTSC, and that's what that thing does. So I had that running through the switcher, which is currently sitting up there, and you can see it in the video, and then of course I added one other thing just for kind of fun time. I brought my Atari 800 and ran it in there. And of course, no audio because there's always going to be little bleeps and bloops and possibly music, and there's no music on ham radio. So, but I put just the video up there, and it was kind of fun. But I also brought one of the things that I picked up this last week going through that on the 800, which is a cartridge called Berserk, which you could get on a 2600 all day long. This doesn't exist. Like I'm looking at Moby Games right now. Moby Games, like right here, Moby Games does not show this game is existent for the Atari 800, and here it is. And it does work,
Dude.
I know,
It's
right?
magical.
So
It doesn't exist.
yeah,
How's it in your hand?
It's in my hand.
I know.
Unreal.
So anyway, we showed the whole thing off, and you can that on this last week. So. Clang.
I almost died.
And I know. I like Timmy though. He's way more effective on that.
I know.
I got the skills.
Don't do that again, please.
Choose it then.
You got to take a helicopter ride. I mean,
Lord,
that only
still
costs
waiting
you
on
as
that
much
bill.
as a house.
Yeah.
I was thinking about when he fell down your stairs.
Oh well.
Just now.
Yeah.
You realize I am the editor, right?
No, I can edit this stuff.
No. Mine.
No, mine. Okay. Anyway, so we'll run that now so you can watch what we actually did at the ham club meeting. All right. So, back sometime in, actually the equipment I know goes back into the 70s, but it was really experimental back then. Some crazy lunatic, and I never could figure out who exactly did it. I believe it was a club out in LA that came up with the concept of amateur television. So this is amateur fast scan television. Of course, the difference is full frame video as opposed to just sending a picture, basically. sometime about 94, I was crazy and bought this thing. This is actually a 1 watt amateur radio transmitter. It transmits on the 440 megahertz band. Actually, there's 2 normal channels used in the 440 band for amateur television. There's 425 to 4.25, right? Like 430, 6 megahertz wider. I'll get it. There's a URL called hamtv.com. Actually, the guy's got a really good stuff. So basically, what I've hooked up here, tried to hook up here, is to where you can actually, hook up multiple cameras to this kind of thing. But something you probably need to know, because everyone now is like HD TV and everything like this. These are not HD. HD in the ham radio community is extremely experimental still to this day. They really haven't even come up with a good standard for it. So this is using the previous standard, which is NTSC video, or standard video for North America. Like I said, this is putting out 1 watt. So let me give you a little backstory to this thing, because I think it'll probably make a little bit more sense as to why I was crazy enough to buy this stupid thing. So back in 94, 96-ish, somewhere in that range, a bunch of us, and were myself, WD9DKO, Dewey, and it was up on the radio station. John White was in that now. Bob something, and bought amateur television equipment because we thought that would be cool, and cheap thing to buy. So I bought this one. Dewey bought an M&J in it, and I can't remember what Bob had. I think it was another variation on this. So we were all using the 440 megahertz band for this. This is AM broadcast. So it's not FM, and they do make it. This is not. This is AM. So what happens is that we actually bought these, and of course we bought a coax. We bought these huge 440 beam antennas, and I bought an amp because 1 watt wasn't enough. So video has some interesting properties to it that if you ever want to start messing around with amateur television, there's a couple of bits and pieces you need to know about. One, because it is 6 megahertz wide. It's not an audio channel, it is huge. Fun things happen. One, an SWR reading for most SWR meters is wrong. It's just so wide, it doesn't deal with it really well. The other thing is, if you buy an amplifier for this thing, and I have one, I have the 100 watt D1010 from Concepts, I think it is. And because it's so wide banded, your actual power output is really low. And that amp gives me about 30 watts. That's it. But 30 watts, we were able to take using I had a 31 element 440 beam, which is still in pieces. My deck right now. But sitting on a 50-foot tower, and I was able to get into the repeater. Yes, there are video repeaters. I was able to get into the repeater in Indianapolis. And it was relatively this quality of picture, which for that kind of distance with 30 watts, pretty good. The guys in Indianapolis, this thing actually sat on the channel 8 tower. The engineer for channel 8 actually was the one that put the whole thing up. So he also had a thing where if there was a weather event, he would flip, instead of just using it like this, they would actually have weather radar going. So effectively, you might think about this as this is your early internet, Facebook, YouTube, and everything else, because we would use it for that. So back in the day, when we were still not in this building, we were in the trailer that's now gone, and the tower that's now gone. We decided we were going to build our own repeater because we were nuts. And so we took, at Dayton, we found this all tube type transmitter. It would actually transmit wherever you wanted it to, so you could manually set it to where it needed to be. We took a Betamax VCR, one of the original gigantic things, set that for the receiver, tied the two together, and made a connection to where we could actually build the controller on a proto board so I could turn it on remotely and then we could actually use it, and it worked. We did vertical separation for the antennas because that was all we could do. It was only putting on 1 watt, so it wasn't really interfering with itself too much. So the fun things about this is obviously you can send full fast scan video, including audio, with no problem at all. There's the other camera, which I need to brighten it up a little bit. I thought it would be fun to bring your old friend in. It's a little weak. It's also like 1980. He needs better color. Anyway. Little guy. If you get enough light, that one actually doesn't look too bad. So back in the day, I didn't have a switcher. I actually picked this thing up because I needed one. And I literally had just like multi-box, so every time you hit it, you have this sync roll. It's like, the thing would actually connect into the battery. But there are some fun things you can do with it. This might work. You can actually send things like that. So, as ridiculous as it is, this actually does work. I literally just have the video out from my Atari 800 going into that, and it will transmit anything you want to, as long as the sync is good enough to actually work with. These things are really, really basic, but you can. I don't want to maybe fix between. So, I used this thing a few years ago to help Val do a couple things in town, but this is a full-blown transceiver, so it's got the receiver transmitter combination. Of course, it's crystal or VFO controlled, but the transmit is always crystal controlled. Mainly because there's really just two channels that we use for that. The VFO sometimes it's crystal off a little bit, or so you can adjust it. But this is extremely light. I mean, this thing weighs like nothing. Also, as far as I can tell, it's not one of my power supply. Oh, it's cold. So sitting here transmitting, I'm hooked to a 2 amp power supply I usually run one of my external hard drives off of. It's cold, so that's great because I was really worried. Fortunately, it's not too bad. With 1 watt output though, because the bandwidth is so wide, it does take more power. It's taking probably somewhere in the neighborhood of 8 watts, which is more than we normally want. But the way it works is actually much the same way you would have really your VCR works. So if you had video in going to your VCR and your VCR came out with just coax to your TV, this is effectively the same idea. It's just a set channel and amp radio band. It has an amplifier built into it to 4 watt.
What band's it running?
In the 440 band. The bottom part of the 440. So it's like 420 to 430 where your repeaters are not. This is. That's primarily what happens down in that bottom part of the band. If you took a 440 radio, you tune it to the fundamental frequencies and actually hear like the 60 cycle sync pulses and everything else. And I actually hooked up the scope so I can just show you kind of this is what you're seeing there. Which is kind of fun. Most people don't realize what that is. So back in the day, when we were playing around with this stuff, keep in mind, you didn't have smartphones yet. So if you want to talk to someone and see them, you did this. We had a lot of fun actually doing this stuff too. We'd sit there for hours to do this. I bought broadcast cameras and everything else because it was, you didn't have kids or wife. I had money. Yeah, so, but I picked up a few of the things. And the neat thing was, so that's not the only band that does amateur television. So this came out about 96, maybe. This is actually a little Gemini rabbit transmitter. It's in the 900 megahertz amateur radio band, which I modified. So you can actually open this thing up and turn the power up in it and hook up. I just used a BNC connector on the back since they were really badly too, but I hooked the BNC connector onto this. Built an antenna and we used it and it worked. Dewey was able to see me on the north side of the county when I was transmitting from Edgewood, actually. And that's actually good because it really is a simplistic little thing that actually works. And I've got this thing up to about maybe a quarter of a watt. I mean, it's really pushing it. There's also amateur television up to the 1.2 gigahertz band, or the 23 centimeter band. Most of the stuff up there actually is running FM video, and really it's just a modulation technique. The video itself doesn't look much different. Actually, it doesn't look any different because of the way it works. But so, step up to modern times. Of course, we have HD for everything. And like I said earlier, there's no set standard yet for amateur television in HD world. They are still experimenting around with it, and right now, most experimental stuff is actually using a standard from Europe. No idea why, but you can actually do it. It is all in the upper bands. It still is actually used in the 440 bands, though, but it is actually used in the 440, and it doesn't. No one's built anything for 900 yet, but most of it's in the 1.2 gigahertz band. Mainly because of the bandwidth. It's still only 6 megahertz wide, which is nice, but it's just a stream of data now, so it's it's a little different, but it's still the same concept. The nice thing is, like, this TV picks up. So here's the fun thing: you can watch it without having anything. This is just a standard television set from whenever you bought this. You just set it to cable, and then hook it to an antenna, and go to channel 59 or 60, and you can actually see amateur television broadcasts. And sometimes you can actually, if you're in Indianapolis, you can do that, and it would actually work because you can see the lower repeater, which is pretty cool. You can, down here, you're a little far away without a high gain antenna, but it would work. Like I said, a couple websites is hamtv.com. That's actually a really good one. The other one is. Yeah, another one that's rather interesting because it gives you the entire frequencies used by everything is Questel.com, which is, I think, actually like a broadband service somewhere, but they actually have a pretty nice thing to give you the frequency chart, and it's like, here's each channel for cable and air, which is nice. So, for example, channel 59 is 435. I know it's actually supposed to be 435, I think 425 actually. Any TV will adjust with PLL, phase lock loop, basically the thing that tells it you're on channel. It will adjust automatically for that, which is, I think, give or take about a megahertz if they do this. So that's kind of handy. The equipment to get into it is a little obscure because, this was made by AEA. They really don't exist much anymore.
Not in the ham radio realm anyway.
MFJ made some stuff, and I didn't have a chance to look today to see if they're still making it. This ham TV actually has some links to some places still making some more homebrew versions of this. And Tim found, what was the brand on yours? Was that
it just says S1A on it. I can't find any documentation.
I think that's when these guys made.
It's old.
Well, but it looks similar to what they're still making. So this thing, it's extremely rudimentary inside this thing. You open it up and it really has all. There's not a lot, which is fine. You really need to do. The fun thing for older cameras is that, I don't want to do this because it's on a small power supply. This actually has the connector for like one of the old style cameras on the front of it. It does actually work. Power the camera and you can use that. So I have tried this before just for fun because I'm a big broadcast camera. I didn't bring it with me because I didn't know where the power supply was at home because I have so much crap I can't find anything. But I at one point had this thing like taped to the back of it and transmitting.
Oh, wow.
And then carry on. It's like you carry the whole thing around and use it. It looks like something you'd see at the track or whatever going back in the day.
That's the whole reason I came today. You told me you were bringing it.
John, here, I'll get that.
Taking your car.
But it's one of those things that I've talked to these guys anyway about maybe trying to build up some more of this stuff just to mess around with. You don't really have to have
have like a ton of equipment. If you can find one of these things, they're not really necessarily that sought after because it's still analog, old style, style video. It's not HD. So everyone's like, it's not HD, but you can pick these up for. You pick yours up for about $100.
I'll pay $20 for at the Hamfest. That's unusually low.
Yeah, I mean they're probably more like 100, but yeah. Back in the day, I would actually take my Commodore 128 and feed it into this thing and send it to Dewey, play games, whatever. The same rules, of course, apply. You can't run music across this, but you can run everything else. So poor Donkey Kong game. I think that's because this is just a little low.
Push a key on the Atari. It's in the screensaver modes that those have. So.
Yeah. I should consider playing a game if you want to. Because everybody needs to play a game, come on.
I gotta ask, this video I've been talking about, what about sound?
It does do sound. I don't have it hooked up right now, mainly because this thing will be making noise if I'm talking to it.
Yeah,
It has audio video input on the back of it. So this just has standard composite in. So composite video. That's the input. So you've got composite video in, standard mono audio in. There's a stereo variation of it. And it has like channel 3, 4 out, so you connect to the TV.
That's for the receive side, isn't it?
That's
the 34 out.
Receive side, yeah. Transmit on this, I'm just like.
You really made it angry. I think it's the Atari you made angry.
Yeah, Mario.
But anyway, yeah.
Yeah, it is transmitting, these are the most shielded computers.
That's true.
Actually not bad, but yeah, so you can. Oh, here's a fun. This is a game that doesn't exist. So you can actually do it. That's one thing they didn't do well. The slot. That's not so good.
No. It's old.
So this is actually two things that are really interesting. One, I'm actually running this through that. Two, that game never existed. So it's Berserk, which you could get on the 2600, but for the 800, they never released it. Hilariously, was that a month ago now? I was on eBay. And the guy listed, he was cleaning out the old Atari factory and bought a desk. This game was in the desk, labeled as Final Beta. It was never released. So he took it, pulled the chip off of it, copied it, and was selling it on eBay.
Selling copies of it, yeah.
Which I'm like, it's a game. If you go to like Moby Games, which is one place that lists all the games for a game system, this one doesn't show up.
Yeah.
Which is kind of fun. Anyway.
So, I don't remember what I was going to say. I had a pertinent question, I've already forgotten it.
So the power supply on this is 12 volts, and it takes apparently less than 2 amps. I got the manual for this. It does not tell you. It's anywhere between like 12 and 14 volts. It doesn't tell you. But if the camera's hooked to it, of course, it would pull more because you have to power the camera. In this case, it's just a one-time transmitter. It's not so bad. All this stuff here, literally, let's see. This I did by new. eBay, our Handfest for $10. eBay. School auction for, what did I pay for that? $100 for that box?
$110.
Yeah.
Except there were 25 oscilloscopes in the
Yeah,
box.
it
was pretty wild.
There was like row of them.
It was really cool.
And
One of them was still new in box.
oh yeah, and like 19 monitors. Yeah, just read this thing. You can find this stuff for not much to get into this and play with it. If you look around, you can find these things relatively cheap. And I think we're going to actually try and get some more usage out of amateur television. It is still completely valid for what it would do.
I think it'd be cool to do a net once a month if 2 or 3 of us get the stuff put together. which right now we have about 1.5 put together.
Yeah. But it's one of those things, it doesn't require as much as like, you can find this stuff real cheap now because no one really wants this stuff.
Right.
You know, I have a lot of this stuff just because I thought it was cool and I'm crazy, but you know, I found a nice digital mixer. It was $10. It came with the little, I could actually put my call sign, I probably really should have, but you know, it's got a little garbage over here.
Yeah, that's the one of the rules. You have to hold the card up and flash it, or I guess.
No, so back in the day, some guys actually made an insert device that would go just a video right to it. So you have like this insert device, you set up what it would say, and it would give your call sign down your car. So you just program it up and leave it in line all the time. It would just transmit that. Yeah, that's the kind of neat thing. So there's a lot of little things that were made back in the day by like MFJ and Art Concepts and everything. So just the other like Rainbow Kids made a bunch of stuff for this at one point. It's really sad. So many places are just gone.
Oh, yeah.
But it only does one input, of course. So you have to run a video switcher if you're going to do multiple, but you don't have to. You can just switch one camera up to it. You can definitely just take this camera and plug right into it to work.
So when was the heyday of this? The 1980s, I think.
No,
90s?
No, definitely mid-90s.
Yeah.
Mid to late 90s, before HD hit.
Because I know if you dig through the archives of old magazines, there were like journals and stuff just on this subject starting in like the mid-80s till it fizzled out a bit. But,
yeah, this stuff, it started its birth really in common use was mid-80s.
Because it had to come with the cable TV stuff in televisions, cable-ready televisions. Since that's for the 70-centimeter piece, because that's where the channels fall.
The RCA Club, when they still existed, made receivers. Just they took old tuner modules, built the boards, and
they had
receivers. Yeah, and they worked good. I mean, they were actually worked beautifully. That's what we actually used here for a while on a couple of things. Whatever happened to mine. Just kind of.
But like so many things in the hobby, there's all kinds of weird things you can try, and that's why I was glad you're going to do a presentation on this, because it's definitely in the corner hiding. It's one people don't think of a lot.
Yeah, it's one of those kind of really obscure things, but it is actually a lot of fun. You don't have to put a ton of money into something like this to do it, because that equipment's not that expensive. And this, of course, will work on a normal modern TV as long as it has a tuner that's capable.
But most of them would.
Yeah.
If not, there's plenty of old ones lying around.
It does not have to be a CRT TV or something.
Yeah.
But
If you got one that'll work, Tim will fix it.
That's probably true.
But it has its joys. I mean, it's one of those things where I've bought so much stuff over the years because it's just not right in the hand.
It's all about having fun, right?
It is. Yeah. So it is actually. I mean, we had so much fun back in the day doing this. I would like to get to do more of it again. Just time, but it's one of those things. It's kind of interesting. And I will just so you know that when we convert this over to a YouTube video, I will put some slides in this presentation that explain more and show some of that website, and I'll put links. So you can give me like a couple of days, I'll put it up there, and you can just click on the links if you want to go to the places. Like I said, I didn't have time to print anything out. I actually have a printer at home before. There's one in the office. I guess you can print there.
I've run across a YouTube stream that's 24/7. It's out of California.
Yeah.
And it's a mix of analog stuff converted to digital and some of the HD experimentation. And I think it's actually a group of linked repeaters throughout California or somewhere out west that you can watch whatever the guys that get on or transmit and stuff and see their conversations right on YouTube. It's a live stream. It's kind of neat. So just whenever they do that.
Yeah. If I can find it, I have actually recorded some stuff doing I did back in the day. I used.
Yeah, you need to find that.
I do. We've got it somewhere. We've got a lot of videotapes. Just done, but it's finding it real quick. It's gonna be a little more complicated. It's not running VCRs. Here, watch the game here. So, what I've got here that I'm actually doing with all this is I've got everything feeding into my Panasonic digital mixer. And then I've got it run through this converter, which was supposed to record so I could show that on YouTube, what I'm doing, but it didn't like the cable, apparently. I don't know why. Something else to figure out. But I just hooked the scope up. Honestly, you don't have to have a scope. I just hooked the scope up so you can see what it looks like. I mean, if you've never seen NTSC video before, it's actually kind of interesting. Complexity of it is as it's working there. So. So you've got front porch, back porch. You can actually see the color burst. This little spool of light there is actually the color synchronization, which the accuracy of that actual is hilarious. It's 39 or 3.579545 megahertz. That's the color burst frequency for the United States. So that's why blue is blue, or supposed to be. So this solution is basically the same. But the horizontal frequency, in case you're curious, horizontal frequency of it, which is the fast scan, it's going to scan across and slow down, fast going across, is 15,750 going across and 59.945 going down. 59.945 is actually hertz, 15,750 is 15.750 kilohertz. The reason that it's not 60 going down is so it doesn't get interfered with by the 60-second power. And that's how you actually make a picture, which is good. Because if you send just those two frequencies together and you mix them and time them right, you just create that. You can actually get black screen. So color bars are really neat to look at. So this thing will do it. It's supposed to. Great.
They got a thing to cycle the colors. That's what that other Panasonic I have does.
Yeah, I thought it was supposed to have color bars. It's black color. Anyway, it's supposed to be color bars. A big camera has a little switch. So in case you're curious, just on cameras, which that poor older camera is really that thing is so old that it requires a stupid amount of light to work. It doesn't look bad when you really crank the brightness, brightness up. This camera is actually 3-chip Sony. It's a little, basically an EMG camera.
You know, I thought it was the TV showing the ghosting, but I can see the ghosting on the scope. So it's probably the transmitter interfering with the camera feed.
Yeah, I'm sure it is.
Because you can see it rolling across on the scope
It's
too.
a little out of sync. So the way this works is it has a built-in gen lock for every single input. Gen lock means that I can switch between these and you don't get that frame roll like if you just unplugged it and plugged it in there. Mm-hmm. So the initial frequency of the camera is actually a little different than what it is coming out, or the frequency with phase. This locks to the phase internally, but its output is a set number. So it's always a set here, and it adjusts for whatever's coming in, and it converts it over. So that's when you get this rolling thing. It's kind of a phase problem. But yeah, and it actually is probably exactly, it's the same image going over and over. So that one's It does it a little bit, not as much. More camera work now. And you really don't see it in that at all. It does have a lot of black though. So. Just go up to where your screen might show.
Usually take that long.
Probably doesn't like the fact that transmitter right there. The games are. Yeah, I have a lot of games. Not as many as Terry. So anyway, delving, I don't know how deep you want to go into this, but we can go into the way video works if you really want to. Mainly, you're just AM modulating video onto the frequency that is the carrier that it's actually generating, 425 or 435 hertz. That's actually the same way prior to HD, everyone did.
Just as broadcast television used what? Used AM for the video and FM for the audio.
Yep, same thing.
Yeah. With the audio, one end of it somewhere, I don't remember exactly.
Yeah, so you can actually take a radio, tune it to the FM audio portion, and hear the audio out of the thing.
Right.
The radio that came equipped to do that. Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
did.
The mouth angle actually do it. You can tune it to the exact frequency of that thing. It's actually
Not anymore.
FM audio. It's just baffling. They're cute little radios. I mean, you can't really. It's $20 radio that if you crush it under a truck, you're really out $20.
Don't run over your radio.
No, but I'm sure it happens. Actually, I know it happens. I've seen it happen. What like? So a lot of times you can also then, of course, take something like this and hook up like an audio mixer and have a really nice microphone and stuff like that, like you do for YouTube, and it works. And it really does sound that good anyway, because FM audio, it sounds like an FM broadcast station. I mean, it really does. So it actually does really, really well. It really does not like that sort of thing. Yeah, so transmitters be right next to my target. Yeah. That's the basics on how it works. It's actually extremely simple. In this case, you have frequency 1, frequency 2. Which is here. If you change it, it goes off. You've got camera, video input. You've got camera on and off to turn the power on and off to the camera. You can receive, this way and transmit light comes on. So when you're receiving, you have your tuner knob here. So this is your audio and video levels. So that's your video levels and the audio. I just have to turn on the power. It's actually extremely simple to use. Like I said, you don't have to have like a ton of things. I've noticed though that the light's better when you crank up the brightness a little bit. I think that's just this particular one. The one that Dewey had back in the day. So the half would actually clip. So you do have to watch clipping because you will splatter if you overload the video into this thing because it's clipping it. So it's just like clipping the audio on your radio. It will cause splatter across the stereo, across the band. Video is rather unique sounding splatter, and you'll see it tear in the video. So you get it up there and you can kind of see this thing smearing a little bit. It's obvious it's not a receive issue, a transmit issue, it's just an overload issue. Yeah, see the smearing? Yeah, that's so what you want to do is back it down to where it's not. That's happier. So a few little things you have to think about when it comes to like how video works. especially old analog video is a critter to itself. But there's a lot of equipment out there that you can buy to like fix sync pulse issues. You can buy color correction devices. The digital mixer does a lot for you, which is great. Yeah.
Well, that was really cool, Nathan.
Thanks.
Thanks for doing that.
Yeah.
You have all the neat toys.
I do. Way too many.
Live
toys.
the life back in the day, as you heard.
So I may have been a little less enthused about that because I'd seen those particular toys before.
Well,
and played with them.
except for you hadn't seen the 800 hooked to it.
That's true.
That
is true.
That was more of a comedy thing. Honestly, I was going for the comedy factor there. Whether it worked or not. I think the people in the asylum are getting noisy. Might have to deal with that.
Yeah. Well, we better hear what they have to say. It's time for Echoes from the Asylum.
There you
that
go.
part of the episode where we hear from you, the viewer. Lucky you.
Oh,
Lucky us.
Yeah. Who are we hearing from this week?
Well, I think we're going to hear from Probnots Tech, which is a YouTube channel that's very similar to ours. It's about the same size and everything, except it's one fella who spends a lot of time with VCRs and television sets. That's something he really likes. He'd be right up Nathan's alley.
I like me some VCRs.
So.
There's a specific one I've been looking for
That's
at
right.
every thrift shop I go to.
He may have a video on it because he's got a bunch.
original one?
So
Betamax.
Nah, it's not a Betamax. It's
yeah,
VHS.
he's got some Betamaxes on there. So, he commented on the Retro Coin Op TV video.
Yeah.
And I think you guys will agree with these comments. He said, "That is an absolute monstrosity, chaircasters and all, and I love it. It screams very early 1970s, especially those slider controls and the power switch. I remember as a very young kid seeing coin-operated TVs attached to chair arms in the airport and thought that was the coolest thing ever." Can you imagine?
Oh my, yeah.
I'm still baffled by the idea of paying, 25 cents to watch the TV for half hour?
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
That's just crazy.
Oh my.
Well,
They could have, I guess, made it 15 minutes so that you had to pump 2 in there to watch an average show.
well, when I made that video, that TV belonged to a different owner, but I since bartered a Baofeng in trade for that TV, so I own it. I don't know why.
Didn't you say you didn't really want it?
I changed my other mind.
Oh, okay. Well, it wasn't that you didn't want it. You didn't want it to live in your space.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So-
it's pretty much in storage now.
Does Melissa allow this thing
it's not
in
in
the house?
Poor little TV.
It can take short visits. But, I don't know where I'd put it, but it's it's out in my shed. So I thought about using it as a background prop, but it's kind of heavy to lug around.
That's
like
true.
if we're going to use it here, it would have to live here.
No. Sarah says no.
Yeah. Sorry, Sarah. Tried to do better.
Where's that organ that you were going to get? Not the one that we help you move. Wasn't there another one? But I was like, ooh, yeah, you need that.
Oh,
It's
yeah,
probably
no.
something we saw online.
Then that look that he usually gets, I got that look. Startled me.
Where would I put it? I don't even know what I'm going to do with the one I have.
No.
Which we will. That'll come. You'll see that in the upcoming, probably a couple months out yet.
Yeah, I'm excited. We got a lot of neat stuff that we never get to it in the order we claim we're going to in videos, so I'm not going to do that in this video.
I've tried. Yeah, I've just got to get back to it.
We got a lot of vaporware videos that will come to be eventually. So
Yeah, this one's.
it's like
yeah,
we're going to do that 2 years ago.
Yeah. There's other videos. There's several other things I need to do. I need to kind of build that tuner.
Yes, that would be cool. Need to finish Little Chief, which means I have to
Also-
learn how to do Arduino. So
True.
I got a kit for Christmas 2 years ago. I have yet to open
I'm
it.
looking forward to that one.
I am too. It's going to be fun.
Yeah, that would be neat.
And I don't even like pinball all that much.
No.
The other thing is coming up here that maybe we'll meet some of those people behind that camera. Not the one sitting there. We already know him. He's our operator. My son.
We have a cameraman now.
Yeah, we have a roadie. We have a roadie. He's not named Bart though.
Indentured servitude.
Indentured
Figured he
servitude.
would be sitting there if he didn't want to be.
Dude, welcome to the waves.
That's right. It's time for Welcome to the Waves, that part of each Three Old Tech Dudes episode where we welcome a new amateur radio operator to the hobby of ham radio. This episode, we welcome Henry Schoenberger, Kilo Delta 9 Uniform X-Ray Bravo, KD9UEB of Gilbert's, Illinois, to the hobby of ham radio. We hope you enjoy, Henry, and take advantage of everything the hobby has to offer. Anyway, thanks for watching this week, guys.
Indeed.
Yep.
Be sure to like this video and subscribe to the YouTube channel if you haven't already.
Ring that little bell.
Yeah, that's right. Go find us over on Facebook. We're on Twitter. Just search 3 Old Tech Dudes. You'll find us either way. It's pretty easy to come across us. So
Yep.
just
Make
look
sure you
for the
leave us a
logo in the
comment down there,
corner. So that's the one to find on all social media.
Yep. Make sure you leave us a comment down there.
Yeah.
And especially if you used amateur television back in the day. And what model of transceiver that you used. Because I've only seen a couple.
Not very many.
Well, a couple homemade ones too. But a couple real actually professionally made ones.
Yep.
And
I bet those AEAs are among the most common of those. I've seen you see those on eBay every once in a while, and people just eat them up. So
oh yeah,
they usually sell for some cash because they work and they are well known.
Yeah, that's true.
Yep. Hey, till next time, guys. I'm Timmy,
I'm Justin.
I'm Nathan,
and this is 3 Old Tech Dudes.
Later.
Thanks for hanging out with us here on 3 Old Tech Dudes. Please subscribe to us here on YouTube for more tech old and new, tinkering at the workbench, repairs, ham radio, electronics, computers, and more. Please like this video and share 3OTD with your friends to help us grow the channel. We tweet at 3 Old Tech Dudes 1 on Twitter, and you can keep up with us on Facebook. Just search for 3OTD and look for our logo. Thanks so much for watching.